Life's too short to drive boring cars. The conversation of whether BMWs are junk or not is really a complicated one because it's really twofold. In some ways, BMWs are extremely high quality. And yes, a lot of the parts they put into the cars are extremely high quality. There's a lot of parts that BMW uses that are designed to run under high heat, high performance applications, and they'll do it all day long with no muss, no fuss. As a matter of fact, you know the N54 twin turbo powered inline 6 that I had in my 335? Literally one of the most unreliable BMW engines ever. And yet, it's got one of the best structurally sound engines that you'll find in the BMW lineup. Why? Because the internals of that engine are forged, and they're made for extremely harsh conditions. But unfortunately, it's the sum of all the garbage that they bolt to that engine that creates a real problematic unit. Here's another example of one of the best BMW engines they've ever created. Why? Because it's the E60 M5. I'll show you. The E60 M5 is a beautiful car. Right there we have, it's an M5 of course, and it's a real gem of a car. You'll notice you've got fender flares there, and you've also got fender flares at the back. You've got beautiful seat bolsters that are active, SMG3 gearbox that's shiftable on the steering wheel, as well as heads-up display, and wonderful finishing throughout. But it's really that engine that gets all the attention. And here it is, the most glorious, arguably one of the best and finest engines in BMW history. It's an M engine, and it's a V10 called the S85. And it's F1 inspired, can rev to 8,400 RPM, has an integrated dry sump, and when combined with the long legs of the gearbox, it can outrun a Lamborghini Huracan. These cars were tremendous, but there's a weakness. Like everything that BMW does, they do so many things right, and they just can't quite finish the remainder. So what they have are problems. Rod bearings. Everybody's aware of the rod bearing problems with some of the M cars. These ones are some of the biggest issues with rod bearings. They're too tight, the wrong spec of oil, and you wind up with rod bearings that fail anywhere from 60, 70, 80,000 miles. You definitely have to put that on your radar for a piece of maintenance. Not normally a maintenance item, but they are in these cars as well. Tucked under here, you've got to remove those plenums, then you've got the throttle actuators in there. Well, the problem with those are, there's little plastic gear sets within each actuator, and the problem is, they start to wear out. They break a tooth or two off, and all of a sudden they skip a cog, and you get the infamous check engine light, and the car goes into limp mode. There's just silly little minute plastic parts within these cars that just let it down. And within my recent video, hundreds of people commented about similar stories that they've had and how they came to the same conclusion by ending my passion for the BMW brand. But even with all of that, I still had a few one-offs that said, it's all about maintenance, and if you don't take care of maintenance, what do you expect? Of course it's going to fail on you. Well, I'll be the first to tell you that yes, in fact, I've always been one for advocating for maintenance. Whether I do it myself or I take it to an independent or I actually take it to the dealer, I do believe in doing the right amount of maintenance. And a matter of fact, in some cases I go above and beyond. In many cases, actually. And for the couple of folks that actually referred to that lacking of maintenance being the cause of my problems, well, let's talk about a few other little issues that I would actually honestly ask you, does it sound like a maintenance item? For example, do timing chains that fail become a maintenance item? Any vehicle that I've ever been familiar with, timing chains should more or less last the life of an engine. Nowadays, a lot of manufacturers going with a thinner chain, single row chain, or they're using cheaper materials in the ramps and within the timing gear. And a lot of times these manufacturers are literally doing this to themselves. Why are timing chains breaking? Sometimes these ramps are crumbling. A lot of that has to do with the junky materials and the plastics that BMW are using. Some of that actually has to do with the oil supply because tensioners now are provided by oil supply. And BMW for the longest time was suggesting longer oil service intervals, which contributed to failures and problems within the oil filter housing assembly, collapsing oil filters, causing rot and deterioration within the timing chain ramps, as well as Vanos problems, because the Vanos system as well uses the pressurized oil to operate the timing gear. And without Vanos working properly, you can have running issues where you have sluggish performance, maybe down low, or you don't get the breathing at the top, and the Vanos isn't working appropriately, because that is your variable valve timing. And yes, there's been quite a few engines. They've had some smaller diesel engines. How about the small gas jobber called the N20 that also had timing chain failures? Quite a few of them. They're quite historical, specifically on the earlier cars, until there was a revised set of hardware for the timing chain ramps. But we also can't forget that N63, the 4.4 twin turbo V8. What a trashola. That also had timing chain issues in some cases. So how is that maintenance? That's a design. That's a design engineered obsolescence, if you ask me. Well, to the question of are BMW engines junk? Well, maybe a couple of those items actually answered it for you, but let's take a quick look under the hood of this E70X5 diesel. One of the problems here, as you'll notice, you have water running down there and it's going down the cowling here. It's that water on that cowling. If you look right in there, if you move this around, you'll see this is separate from this. This all, if you look at that, all comes away. So this water goes down and drips down in behind the engine. And you can actually get water down tucked in there. Well, what's the problem with that? Well, it's like I said in the last video. Pull this off. And what you'll see down there is the diesel injector rail right there. And you'll see that rusty nut there that feeds an injector line. Well, there's 6 injectors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The last 3 often get wet because the water that comes off the cowling makes its way down. This sponge can soak up the water and that transfers some of that moisture down onto the backside of the fuel injector. And what do you think that will do? Well, it can do what had happened to me. I had a number 5 injector start faulting out and it ended up costing me $2,000 to have the dealer retrofit 1 injector. That's right, they're about $1,100 or $1,200 per injector, and they charge me the rest of that on terms of labor. Are BMWs junk? Well, the injectors are very expensive, and I would argue they're probably worth 1/3 of that realistically, but that BMW grossly marking up the price of their products. But then it becomes a conversation about engineering. And why is water even getting onto the injectors? Why is that happening? That's a common phenomenon. Check out the forums and you'll see there's a lot of conversation. But here's more pieces under the hood that make me think, maybe they are kind of junk. Right here. This here is the plumbing. This just takes fresh air, takes it into the air box right here as you see. But look at this. Look at the way that fits. That has never fit very well. You see this a locking tab right there? It never locks. It always just sort of falls apart like that. And that's what you get. Now granted, the airbox is there. It's filtered anyway. It's not really that big of a deal. But it's just an example of some of the plastics and how they don't hold up. Yet there's another justification to call BMWs junk, and it's just the way they build their products. I mean, look at Toyota and Hondas. They keep it simple. But how often do you see a coolant leak by a Honda or a Toyota? Some of the earlier 5-liter V8 engines by Lexus Toyota were known to leak a little bit of coolant. But for the most part, coolant leaks are not their game. BMW, everybody knows a BMW leak coolant. And there's various reasons for it. One of them is the junky, overpriced water pumps and thermostats that can cost you upwards of $1,200 Canadian. And here's where I know things get silly. I called the dealer looking for a new water pump and thermostat combination for my N54 from my old 335i. They quoted me about $1,200. That was with the fasteners, the water pump thermostat and fittings, all in. It was absolutely bizarre. I called my mechanic buddy Ed. He went to his wholesaler suppliers and the exact same part. He got me all the parts in a box ready to go that afternoon and I paid under $400 for the whole lot. And so it just leaves me wondering, like, I get the dealer markup. I get that they're in the business to make money, but this is getting obscene. They're beyond adding 20%. They're gouging consumers beyond, and it's just getting disgusting. But the point is the parts should be lined in gold and platinum based on the price they're charging for this junk. But let's take a look at some of the parts and why they tend to leak in a BMW, but they don't necessarily in a Toyota. So right here, so much plastic under the hood, and you'll typically find any BMW, lots of plastic. I mean, this is just an air hose, but plastic, and plastic fantastic everywhere. Now, this has turbos in it, and most of the gas engines by BMW today have turbos as well. But it's the V8. When they have the N63, they wind up putting the V8, they put 2 turbos in there, and those turbos are right tight in the V of the engine. It starts to burn, and it's that burning of the heads that starts to deteriorate the valve guides, and it ultimately results in excessive oil consumption. So too much heat, too much plastic in the engine compartment, and then you have other problems, not just deterioration of heads because of turbocharging and lack of shielding, but you also have problems with excess coolant leaks and fittings starting to crack and break. Because as I said, lots of plastic. So here's an example. Here's your antifreeze, your coolant reservoir right here. And you'll notice it has these little snap fittings. It looks very nice because it has this nice little keyed fitting you can pop and pull. But it doesn't always pull out so easy. Often what ends up happening because of the excess heat here, these two, this as well as the fittings start to seize together and almost start to melt together. So sometimes these come off, but sometimes they're very difficult and you almost have to cut. I've actually had to resort to cutting here and notching that and then splitting it just to get it off of this. So anyway, that's all plastic. You'll notice lots of fittings, and then they go to rubber and all kinds of random crimps here. But it's these plastic fittings that are known to fail. Why don't they just keep it simple? Go with a simple hose like Toyota, Lexus, and a lot of other brands. I mean, here's an example hose that I actually ripped out of the M5. But look at this hose. This is a hose from the M5. And of course, what you'll see is it's got the sending unit right there. You've got where you can put in the switch. This is where mine actually started to fail. It started to leak out of that little switch hub. But then, of course, you've got these keyed fittings. You've got that metal ring that holds this, locks it into place. Of course, this plastic always winds up leaking at some point. You got plastic on both ends. These are leakers. And you know what? This hose is ridiculous. You're talking like $150 for this goofy little hose. How is this possibly worth that kind of money? It's beyond me. Toyota, Lexus, they got it figured out. Good old-fashioned rubber hose. Maybe it doesn't look quite as fancy, but it works. And what you have here is a potential leaker. So, junk? Absolutely. And again, for those couple of folks that said it's all about maintenance, well, guess again, it's not all about maintenance. Those hoses shouldn't just pop and leak like a sieve. Valve cover gaskets, vacuum line leaks. I mean, these are not standard maintenance items. Sure, you fix them when they go, but they're not standard maintenance items. But the problem is they price themselves out of the market, they gouge on parts, and that's part of the business model. But that's personally why a vehicle, when you say BMWs junk, or are they junk? They really are, because the vehicle is scrapped in a few short years just because they're too expensive and way too cost prohibitive to start pouring dollars, hundreds and thousands of dollars into these beasts just to keep them on the road or to keep them compliant. We took this car into the dealer because this light here wasn't working anymore, and this light was. So this was all good, and then we took it in because this one wasn't, and you'll notice this one has a little water in there, but this one was burnt out. So we thought, oh, it's got to be a bulb, but you actually can't get into here. There's no bulb that you can actually get in from the inside. These ones, yes. These ones, no. This actually apparently required a special module. Hear me taking the car into the dealership thinking, oh, you know, probably be maybe $50 or something to get a bulb changed out, or at least I'll have an idea what's going on. The vehicle comes out there and them telling me that I need to spend at least, I can't remember, it was about $500 or $600 to get this replaced. Can you believe that? That's ludicrous. Or how about this other thing? We had an issue with the parking brake. Right there, as you can see, it's electric. Parking brake, you pull up on that like this, and it locks these rear wheels. Seems simple enough, right? Wrong. We kept getting a yellow parking light come on. It would come on the dash, it would last for a while, then it would go away, and then it would come on, and then it would go away. Nothing ever changed, the vehicle still ran fine, and it wasn't a red light, but it was a yellow light, and it was becoming annoying, so I took the car into the dealership, and I asked them, what's going on there? Is there like maybe an adjustment? Maybe I'm thinking there's a little adjustment or something down in the hub that needs to be tweaked or tuned. Turns out they notified me that it was a pretty expensive module that they would change, and that didn't guarantee it because they said there was a module that fed into another potential module that possibly could have been a problem. Could have been either one, but they said we'll start with the first one that might fix your problem and then move on from there. To me, I thought, again, another ripoff story. So quickly, I'm going to ask you guys out there the question. When the question is asked, are BMWs junk? Again, the answer has to be, of course, as we just talked about. Problem is, yes, they're junk because they price themselves so high. When is the last time you've seen an older 5 Series BMW? Just think about E60s driving around. How many E90s do you think are driving around anymore? Just think of how many were built versus how many are actually on the road today. Actually, there's not too many that you see driving around anymore. How many E46s or E36s? I actually saw an E36 for the first time in about 8 months there last week. But you really don't see many of the older BMWs hanging around very long. They're all dying away, and they're all dying a hard life. And it's because cheap parts that cost a lot of money means that people have to pour thousands of dollars to keep a $2,000 car on the road. It just doesn't make economical sense, and people end up scrapping them. You go to the scrapyard, you'll see thousands of BMWs piled up on the back 40, waiting to get shipped off, to get melted down and turned into some other kind of metal, partially create lights as well as road signs. So yes, they are junk. And it's not about maintenance, because the parking module, the burnt out tail light that you can't get at because there's no bulb, isn't maintenance. Although changing it should be part of a maintenance, but it's not a maintenance type item. It's the same as non-serviceable wheel bearings. Well, there's a lot of parts that don't necessarily need maintenance, but clearly in the BMW world they fail, and when they fail big, they're ugly and they're expensive. If you watched my video, then you'll know that with the diesel exhaust fluid tank that I had to put into this thing last week, that it cost me $3,500 for a plastic part that was just changed 60,000 kilometers before that. So you want another sobering perspective? How about this? Say, for example, you get a pair of turbos that go, because a lot of turbo cars now either have 2 turbos or single turbos. Even a single turbo might cost you upwards of $2,500 to $3,000 Canadian just to change a turbo and a wastegate. In this particular vehicle, that diesel exhaust fluid tank located down under here, that cost me $3,500. These have 6 injectors. They're $2,000 a piece when you get them done at the dealer. How much you do the math, that's over 10 grand in fuel injectors on here. What if you have a fuel pump? Start to add those numbers up. It doesn't take long to figure out what is 10 grand worth. Nothing. You can blow that in a real heartbeat. So the sobering thought is, if you have a BMW and its retail value in the market is only worth about, say $10,000 or $15,000, there's a high probability the next big repair could be your last. And why is that? Because BMWs are junk. Now, with all of that said, you're definitely going to want to check out that video. That was a very popular recent video I made about why I will never buy another BMW. Hope to see you real soon. Catch you then. Bye-bye.